Yu was a shy, awkward boy who didn't stand out much. He wasn't good at talking to people, especially not to pretty girls. But even so, he had a dream. One day, he wanted to own a shop where he could sell accessories made from preserved flowers. The problem? He was terrible at selling. During the fall of his 8th year at school, he tried selling his handmade flower accessories at a school event. But no one seemed interested. At the end of the day, he had sold only 5 out of 100 pieces. He thought maybe he could try again tomorrow, but deep down he wasn't hopeful. As he was packing up, Yu opened a door and unexpectedly met a beautiful girl with bright blue hair. She was waiting for him. With a curious smile, she asked if he was Yu from the science club. When he said yes, she scolded him for leaving his shop empty. She said that a group of girls had come looking for accessories, but since no one was there, they left disappointed. Yu looked down, too shy to meet her eyes. He didn't think it really mattered. He didn't believe anyone would buy more anyway. But the girl surprised him. She told him that while he was gone, she had stepped in to help and had sold 27 accessories to 15 customers. Then she handed him an envelope full of the money. Still avoiding her gaze, Yu quietly took the envelope. She teased him for being shy, but he couldn't explain why. The truth was simple. He wasn't used to talking to pretty girls, especially one as bold and confident as her. Then she asked why he was trying to sell exactly 100 accessories. Surprised, he asked how she knew that. She said that his teacher told her everything. Being around her made Yu feel like she could see right through him. It was as if she might laugh at his real reason, so he hesitated. But then he took a deep breath and explained. He told her he wanted to make flower accessories his future career, even though his parents wanted him to become a government worker. So to prove he could succeed on his own, he promised himself he would sell all 100 items at the festival. The girl burst out laughing so hard that she accidentally sprayed juice on Yu's face. She said no sensible parent would support such a reckless dream. Embarrassed and annoyed, Yu told her to shut up. They had just met after all. But the girl didn't seem bothered at all. Instead, she asked how many accessories were left. When he said 68, she confidently promised to help sell the rest the next day. She then introduces herself as Henry Inuzuka. 2 years later, back at school, Yu watched 2 girls looking at a social media post. They were admiring earrings and asking where they could get some just like them. Henry, who was with him, handed them a card and said they were available at their online store. Yes, the festival sale had been a success. With Henry's help, every last accessory was sold. Since then, Yu continued to grow his little business. He now shipped flower accessories through his family's convenience store. The work wasn't easy, and there were always challenges, but he was happy. He bought flowers, made his products, and worked quietly in his own little world. His sisters called him introverted, and they were right. But Yu was finally doing what he loved. One day, while Yu was hard at work, Henry came up from behind and hugged him. Then she sat in his lap, trying to get his attention because he had been working for hours without noticing her. Yu smiled and remembered the old festival, pointing out that Henry had long hair back then. She laughed and said he had grown a lot since that time. Still hugging him like a backpack, she playfully squeezed his neck and said it was the best neck to hug in all of Japan. One day, while they were eating at a diner, Yu asked Henry why she had helped him back then. She told him she hadn't really helped out of kindness. She just thought she could sell all those accessories herself. Then smiling, she said she'd be happy to help with his future shop too. After all, she really wanted that choker he had given her as a gift. Henry had always seen Yu working with resin in the science lab through the hallway window. One time, she even tried to talk to him, but he ignored her. She also knew that he took care of the school garden every day, naming each flower and even crying when he had to cut them. Originally, Henry was going to buy a choker from a random online store, but when she noticed that Yu's little business was struggling, she asked her friend for a big favor, which cost her a lot. So now, as she sees it, Yu owes her one. When he asks what exactly he owes her, Henry jokingly says she wants his eyes. Yu stares at her, confused. Then she grabs his cheeseburger and takes a bite without hesitation. Of course, she doesn't mean she wants to take his eyes out. What she really means is that she loves seeing how his eyes light up when he's focused on his work, so bright and full of life like the evening sun. She wants to keep seeing those eyes full of passion, just for her. That's why she keeps helping him sell his accessories. They're partners after all. Yu then takes a bite of the same burger she's holding and quietly thinks about the flower, anemone flaccida, that he had once given her. It means friendship, cooperation, and never being apart. Back in the present day, Yu brings up the talent agency that had once shown interest in Henry. She tells him she turned them down to keep focusing on the accessory shop. He thinks it was a missed opportunity, but she insists it wasn't, because they're best friends. Then, teasing, she adds that if Yu doesn't open his own shop by the time he's 30, she'll have no choice but to marry him. He laughs and tells her to stop joking, especially since Henry's brother, Hibari, now calls him little brother-in-law because of that. Besides, you can't marry someone you're not even dating. Henry reminds him about his childhood crush, saying it couldn't work out. But if it didn't, maybe he should start thinking about girls as possible girlfriends. Yu agrees, but says it's hard when Henry is always around, watching over him. She admits that she's dated a few boys in the past, but always ended up talking about Yu to them, maybe because none of them really mattered to her. In truth, she doesn't understand love all that well. Yu asks if she's really going to wait to marry him only if he opens the shop. Henry says she would like that, but jokes that if he doesn't marry her, she might be stuck in an arranged marriage with some old rich man. Yu is surprised that arranged marriages still happen, and Henry says they do, especially for girls from wealthy families like hers. But then she laughs and admits she was just messing with him. That night, lying beside his cat Fuku, Yu remembers a conversation with Henry. Once on their way home, she said romance was confusing, but she was curious about him. She joked that if they were still single at 30, they should live together and grow his shop. Yu said he liked girls a bit less wild, which made Henry laugh. It was her first time being rejected. In the present, Yu delivers orders and asks her sister, Sakura, for more money to buy flowers. Thanks to Henry's promotions, sales are rising. The next day, an upperclassman sees Henry walking with Yu and asks if they're dating. She brushes it off and leaves, but privately thinks the guy doesn't see Yu's worth, and that deep friendships between boys and girls are real. Still, she worries that if Yu starts dating, their bond might change. Later, at a vending machine, Yu bumps into a beautiful girl and stares, speechless. Then he notices she's wearing a night-blooming Sirius bracelet, the same kind he made for the school bazaar, which he thought only Henry had. Right then, the bracelet breaks. He nervously offers to fix it, but the girl panics, thinking he's too forward. Embarrassed, he runs off and tells no one. Still, Henry finds out and teases him online, saying she'll figure out who the girl is. Soon after, Makishima, an over-the-top flirt, arrives and seems to like Yu a bit too much. Henry shows up too, clearly staking her claim. Yu is baffled, especially since they dated in middle school but now can't stand each other. Makishima then introduces the girl from the vending machine, Ren Inamoto. Henry immediately recognizes her by her nickname, Inaki. It turns out Ren is Makishima's childhood friend, even though he went to another school. Henry remembers seeing her a few times because their siblings were classmates. Back at that bazaar, it was Ren's older sister, a famous model who helped promote Yu's accessories. She's now a big name in commercials, and it was probably her who gave the bracelet to Ren. Henry and Yu go talk to Ren to check out the broken bracelet. Yu sees that the clasp is worn out, but he can fix it. Henry warns her not to scare Yu, even showing her reflection to prove she looks terrifying. Ren freaks out and falls. Frustrated, she demands the bracelet be fixed. The girls bicker over childhood memories and embarrassing gym class moments. Henry even repeats an old stunt, earning another punishment sign. I grab my classmate's melons again. Meanwhile, Yu focuses deeply on the repair, unaware that Henry ties ribbons in his hair while he works. Ren is impressed by his skill. When he finishes, she's grateful. Later, Yu walks home as the rain starts to fall. Back at the bus stop, Ren and Henry talk. Ren asks if there's something going on between Henry and Yu. Henry jokes that Ren must have a crush on him, but inside, she's feeling protective and jealous. She thinks Ren could never fully understand Yu's personality, his quiet talent, or the depth of their bond. Deep down, she's scared of losing her place in his life. As it begins to rain harder, Ren asks if Henry has ever gotten a love confession from someone she didn't know. Her mother once said that people with kind hearts can create things that move others. Ren felt that whoever had confessed to her was nearby, someone kind. She even shows Henry a photo of herself where, again and again, accessories made by the same person appear. She suspects the creator is Yu. At that moment, Henry clutches the choker Yu gave her. For the first time, she wonders if she was being arrogant, thinking that only she could see how special Yu was. And maybe she believed their friendship was stronger than anything else. But now she's not so sure. Maybe, just maybe, all of this was only her wishful thinking. The next day, Yu was having breakfast and wonders how he is now talking to another girl besides Henry. His sister walks in and immediately notices that Yu seems more fatigued than usual, raising her concern. He decides to tell her about his unusual encounter with Ren. Sakura points out that having Ren as a new friend might be good for inspiration. She notes that all of his recent accessories have started to look similar and blames it on the fact that he's only been making pieces with Henry in mind. With Ren around, Yu might get a stroke of inspiration and create new and exciting designs. Yu tries to argue that his sales have been doing well, but Sakura counters that he hasn't had a single repeat customer. As Yu gets up to leave, she reminds him of the promise he made. If he fails to grow his flower accessory business, he'll have to take over the family convenience store and marry Henry. During class, Yu can't stop thinking about what his sister said. He realizes she might have a point. His shop doesn't have any repeat customers. Makishima confronts Ren about her encounter with Yu, offering to help her win Yu's heart, but Ren refuses to reveal anything. Just then, Henry spots them and approaches, quickly getting into another argument with Makishima. They only stop when some girls from the tennis club approach to ask for Makishima's help. When he leaves, Henry takes the opportunity to speak to Ren in private, making Ren a bit uneasy about what the conversation might be. Meanwhile, Yu was watering the flowers in the school garden when Henry jumps on his back. She says she noticed how distracted he was during class and wants to know what's going on. Yu tells her about his plan to change the theme for his next batch of accessories. He's thinking of exploring romance and rejection. This amuses Henry, who starts slapping his back playfully, finding it funny that Yu of all people will focus on romance. Yu shares more about his conversation with Sakura, and Henry agrees it might be a good idea to finally consider things from a buyer's perspective instead of just making what he personally likes. Yu is surprised to see how excited Henry seems about the new theme, considering she often says she can't feel romantic emotions. Henry counters that she's popular and loved by many boys, so between the two of them she clearly has more experience in the romance department. Yu decides to test her and asks what she really knows about the concept of love. Without hesitation, she says that love is the desire to be physically intimate with someone. Yu argues that her definition sounds more like lust, but she counters that such feelings often stem from love. Curious, Yu presses her to explain further, admitting he doesn't fully understand the difference between love and lust. Henry says lust can be born from love, then throws the question back at him. He has a certain type of girl he has desires for. Before Yu can process the question, she begins describing Ren's characteristics and asks if he's ever felt the urge to kiss her. Yu looks at her, unamused by her sudden attempt at playing matchmaker. He quickly clarifies that she's only suggesting Ren as a source of inspiration. It might be easier, she claims, to create accessories with a person in mind. Yu admits he's never had the urge to kiss any girl. Henry then casually suggests Yu try kissing her to finally understand what it feels like. The idea flusters Yu, and he asks if Henry even sees him as a man. With complete confidence, Henry answers that she only sees him as a best friend. She insists that it will be a valuable experience for them both, especially since neither of them has kissed anyone before. Just as Yu starts to see the logic in her reasoning, he realizes that kissing between friends is probably inappropriate. Seeing the hesitation in his expression, Henry grabs his hand, demonstrating how easy it is for them to be physically close. Yu immediately feels that even holding hands is already crossing a line. Still, he pushes her idea further and suggests they go through with a kiss. She begins pulling him down, slowly closing the distance. Yu starts to panic, not expecting her to actually go through with it. As she inches closer, he can't help but notice how beautiful she is. He closes his eyes, bracing himself for the kiss, but nothing happens. As he doesn't feel her lips, he opens his eyes to find Henry barely holding back her laughter before bursting out laughing. Yu crouches down, disappointed in himself for even thinking she was serious. Realizing she may have pushed too far, she promises to make it up to him. She tells him to keep his Saturday free, but refuses to reveal what she has planned. When Saturday arrives, Yu is surprised to be picked up by Henry's brother, Hibari, who cheerfully admits he's missed Yu terribly. Yu thanks him for the sushi the other day and casually mentions his older sister, someone Hibari knows since they were schoolmates back in the day. He reveals that Sakura was very popular in school and known for being a genius. The comment makes Yu feel a bit self-conscious about how different he and Sakura are in terms of academics and social standing. Noticing Yu's unease, Henry tries to reassure him, saying that Yu has his own unique talents that he should be proud of. He even jokingly invites Yu to just stay at their house forever and focus on making accessories full-time. When he drops Yu off, he expresses disappointment at not being able to spend more time with him. He drives off in a rush, saying he needs to head back to work. Yu stares after the disappearing car, quietly realizing how spontaneous both Hibari and Henry are. Just then, Henry appears and immediately criticizes Yu's outfit, saying it isn't fashionable. Yu takes a moment to scan Henry's outfit and notices how much effort she puts into looking cute every day. He defends himself, saying that Hibari was too excited and didn't give him time to change into something better. Henry then drops the surprise that she brought Ren along to hang out with him today. They stop at a cafe to grab a meal, but Yu finds it difficult to talk to Ren, who seems distant again. Henry tries to break the awkwardness by bringing up Yu's next accessory photo shoot. She excitedly suggests that Ren be his new model and reveals that Ren has already agreed to do it. As they begin to eat, she explains that Ren wants to repay Yu for fixing her bracelet, so she took the initiative and suggested Ren model for him. She adds that the shoot will be held in Ren's family's sweet shop, which visibly shocks Ren. Without a word, Ren excuses herself to call her mom and asks for permission. Later, they visit an accessory shop. Yu gets really excited when he sees flower-themed accessories. Henry catches his attention, and together they look at different colors and styles that might suit Ren. After a while, Yu realizes he might be acting a little too comfortably around Ren and steps back, apologizing. Henry teases him right away, which makes Ren laugh. Seeing how naturally the two get along, the group starts trying different accessories on Ren. Henry suggests that you should put a red necklace on Ren. Yu listens without thinking much, assuming Ren doesn't see him as anything more than a friend. But when he clasps the necklace around her neck, he notices something. Ren stiffens a little and her breathing catches. It's a small reaction, but Henry notices it too. Smirking, Henry jokes about how revealing Ren's clothes are, making Ren blush hard. Embarrassed and annoyed, Ren lifts Henry into the air in response. Next, they head to the flowers section of the shop to find balloons for ideas for Yu's new accessory line. Ren blossoms. She looks lost in thought and softly says they remind her of something from her past. Yu hears the sadness in her voice and looks at her with curiosity. But when he asked about it, she quickly brushes it off. Henry then calls out, asking if he's done picking flowers and suggests roses instead. Yu disagrees. He thinks roses wouldn't suit Ren. Her beauty he feels is more honest and quietly stunning. He says this without thinking, and once he realizes it, he tries to laugh it off. But Henry just smiles happily and walks off to buy drinks, leaving Yu and Ren alone. With Henry gone, Yu takes the chance to apologize again for earlier worry he made Ren uncomfortable. They start talking about how Ren and Henry became friends. Yu was surprised to learn that Henry wasn't always outgoing. It was Ren who first asked to be friends. Hearing this changes how Yu sees Ren. She mentions she wants to use big flowers for accessories and Yu agrees, saying she's beautiful enough to wear them easily. Realizing he just called her beautiful out loud, he awkwardly tries to backtrack. Ren turns away, her cheeks pink. Trying to move past the moment, Yu looks around and spots some tulips. He brightens up, saying they'd be perfect for Ren's idea. He talks excitedly about their bright colors and perfect peels, not noticing how closely Ren is listening. After a while, he realizes he's been rambling and worries he's boring her. He quickly grabs the tulips and heads toward the counter, but just before he can walk away, Ren gently tugs on his sleeve. He stops, surprised by the soft request to keep talking. Something about her quiet expression touches him. Ren's presence feels familiar, calm, but pulling him in. Without thinking, he starts telling the story of how he fell in love with flowers. He explains that during a trip to a botanical garden with his family, he got separated and wandered alone. That's when he met a young girl who was also lost. They decided to search for their families together. As they walked, the girl spotted a bright red flower and her face lit up. Yu, touched by her happiness, bought the flower for her. She promised to wear it every day. They eventually found her parents, but Yu never forgot her smile. Even though he knew the flower would wilt, the memory stayed with him and made him want to protect beautiful moments forever. After he finishes, Ren quietly asks if the flower was a hibiscus. She admits that she fell in love with it that day and remembers how Yu said the color suited her. That simple comment made her feel beautiful, even when she hated her hair. Yu stares at her, shocked. His heart is full of amazement and happiness as he realizes the girl from the garden was Ren all along. The person who inspired his whole love for flowers is standing right in front of him, smiling just like she did back then with that same hibiscus-like glow. As the sun sets, Yu starts worrying about where Henry went. Ren suggests they exchange phone numbers before they say goodbye. Meanwhile, Henry is lying in bed at home, unable to sleep. She keeps thinking about Ren and Yu's quiet moment in the flower shop. She knows she should be happy for them. They really do look perfect together, but a heavy feeling starts to grow in her heart. One morning, he walks slowly to school, his mind heavy with the realization that Rin had been his first love all along. The thought kept him up all weekend, replaying memories over and over. He had tried texting Henry, but she ignored his messages without any explanation. Then, out of nowhere, Henry greeted him cheerfully. Her voice sounded happy, but she kept her distance, which Yu found strange. Curious, he asked her why she disappeared on Saturday and didn't respond to his texts. She avoided his questions and joked about keeping a 3-meter distance from him. Before Yu could push further, Rin appeared and greeted him softly. Yu replied, but he was clearly distracted. Rin noticed and followed his gaze to where Henry was hiding behind the lockers. She called out that she brought cookies and Henry immediately ran over, only to get lightly scolded by Rin. The three of them walked to class together while Yu quietly listened to Rin fussing at Henry, wondering how they stayed friends despite being so different. Just before they went to their separate classrooms, Rin gave Yu a small pack of her homemade cookies. He was surprised by the beautiful designs and delicate care put into them. As she walked away, he couldn't help but stare. Henry noticed and teased him non-stop about his obvious crush on Rin. She kept it up all the way to lunch. During lunch on the rooftop, Henry teased him again about realizing Rin was the girl from his past. Yu, frustrated, lightly pinned her against the railing, demanding to know why she had been acting so strange lately. He paused when he saw her flustered expression, something rare for her. She called him weird, but he pointed out that she was the one jumping to conclusions about him and Rin. Henry didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a cold drink and told him to cool off. As she walked away, you stared after her, remembering how cute she looked just moments ago. Later in the science lab, Rin watched with fascination as you worked with tulip peels, changing them back to their original color. He explained it was a delicate part of the accessory-making process, one that helped preserve the flower's natural beauty. Meanwhile, Henry started bothering him again. You, annoyed, asked Rin to help. She held Henry still and gave her a favorite drink to calm her down. You thanked her and said Henry always made him take longer with his projects. Henry, pretending to be offended, said he actually liked her interruptions and used to flirt back before Rin started joining them. You scolded her for saying that in front of Rin, but Henry only teased him more. She even brought up their old pretend kiss. Rin stood up and left the room silently. You turned to yell at Henry, but she was already laughing on the table. She asked him to help her up, but instead, she pulled him down. With a mischievous smile, she suggested they kiss for real since Rin already believed it had happened. She reminded him of the pact they made, to be together if neither of them found love by 30. You blushed and said that was her idea, not his. But Henry suddenly spoke more seriously. She said maybe a kiss would help them understand love better, for the sake of their accessories. You was stunned. His heart pounded. Slowly you leaned in, but just then, he heard a camera click. Henry had snapped a photo of the moment and burst out laughing, joking about pranking Rin with it. You felt both embarrassed and betrayed. Henry, still grinning, asked for his help up again. This time, he helped her up and quietly returned to his seat. Henry turned away and her smile faded. She whispered something under her breath, calling him an idiot, but you didn't hear it. When he asked what she said, Henry quickly covered it up with her usual teasing before leaving the room. You sat back down, feeling confused about Henry's actions, not realizing she was just as unsure about her feelings as he was. The next day during a break, Makishima pulled you aside and brought him to the school garden. As you watered the flowers, Makishima asked how things were going with Rin, saying she'd already confessed. He was confused, he remembered, realizing they were each other's first love, but not a real confession. They hadn't talked about dating. Makishima disagreed, saying Rin making cookies was a clear sign of her feelings. You admitted that things felt complicated. He liked Rin, but everything was moving too fast. He also mentioned that Henry had been acting strange, more intense than usual. Makishima noticed this and thought it was worth keeping an eye on. Later in the lab, you, Rin, and Henry looked at the preserved tulips. The flowers still looked fresh. Rin was impressed. You gave her some prototype accessories and asked her to model them. While Rin posed, Henry whispered to you that Rin should try more suggestive poses. You ignored her and focused on the photos, but he felt something was missing. All the pictures reminded him too much of Henry. Then he noticed Rin's old bracelet and got an idea. He asked to take a photo of her as the Queen of the Night, referencing a mysterious flower. Rin looked confused and you was about to forget the idea when Henry whispered something to Rin. Rin's expression suddenly changed, soft and emotional. You took the photo. It was perfect. But Rin still looked uneasy. When he asked what was wrong, Henry jumped in, laughing and brushing it off as a joke. Rin tackled her in frustration. Later on the walk home, you asked Henry what she had whispered, but she refused to say. Instead, she asked you to make her a tulip accessory for when she falls in love. You was surprised. He looked at her, the sunset reflecting softly on her face. She looked more beautiful than ever. He noticed the old choker she still wore, the one he gave her long ago, and remembered the promise he made to protect her. He smiled and teased her, saying they were just best friends. That night, Henry couldn't sleep. Her mind was full of thoughts about you and Rin. She remembered how you looked at Rin, so gently, so lovingly, and realized she wanted that look to be meant for her. She had always played the role of the best friend, a loud one who never left his side. But now that role was starting to hurt. She didn't want to lose him. So she decided to step back just enough to stay close, even if it meant hiding her true feelings. A few days later, you, Rin, Henry, and Makishima went to a sushi place to celebrate the completion of Yu's new accessory. As always, Henry and Makishima bickered while you tried to keep the peace. When you showed his new red tulip hairpin, Henry pretended to be excited. Makishima, watching her closely, came up with a plan. He suggested you should clip the accessory on Rin himself. You hesitated but did it. Rin smiled brightly, happy with the gift. Makishima pushed further, saying Rin should be Yu's official model. That upset Henry. She said it was a good idea, but worried Rin couldn't handle the pressure. A heated argument broke out between her and Makishima. He accused her of being afraid. Afraid Rin was taking the place she secretly wanted. Henry looked to you for support, but he didn't see the issue. He said Rin modeling was fine, especially since it was Henry's idea. Then he called out Henry's recent behavior as annoying, though what he didn't say was how her actions were starting to affect him more deeply. Overwhelmed, Henry looked for her yogurt to calm down, but it was gone. She snapped. Pouring the rest of her drink on Yu's head, she stood up and yelled that their friendship was over, leaving both of them shouting in the middle of the restaurant. At school, after what happened at the restaurant, Yu was clearly upset that Henry ended their friendship. Without thinking, he buys 2 yogurt drinks from the vending machine like he always used to. It's only after the drinks come out that he realizes he doesn't need 2 anymore. He walks into the classroom and sits in his usual seat next to Henry, but she ignores him. They glance at each other, and when she smirks, Yu assumes it's because she thinks he misses her. Trying to get her to talk, he opens a bag of their favorite shared snack. She hears the sound and looks over, but quickly turns away, pretending not to care. Since she still won't speak, Yu says loudly that they won't be opening a shop together anymore. That hits Henry hard. Her smile disappears and her eyes well up with tears. She buries her face in her arms, and the other students start staring, assuming Yu is the one at fault. Yu starts to panic, unsure how to explain. Then his phone buzzes. It's a message from Henry with a picture of a signed contract from a talent agency. She's leaving the school at the end of the month. Shocked, Yu stands up and demands an explanation. Henry laughs and runs out of the classroom before he can respond. Yu chases after her but loses her in the crowd. He runs into Rin, who also got a message from Henry saying she's moving to Tokyo. They both feel she owes them an explanation. So they set a trap using her favorite drink and homemade cookies on a bench, then hide nearby. Sure enough, Henry shows up. She teases them for the obvious setup, but still reaches for the snacks. Yu jumps out, saying the trap worked since she came. But when he accuses her of just wanting attention again, she runs off. Yu chases her and finally catches up. Henry suddenly slaps him, overwhelmed with emotion. Yu starts listing all the ways she's been unfair to him. He asks if their friendship meant so little that she could just walk away. Henry reacts angrily. When Yu tries to stop her, he accidentally brushes her choker. The pendant falls and breaks under his foot. She drops to the ground, clearly upset. That's when Yu realizes he's done chasing her. He accuses her of using him just to get his handmade accessories. She throws it back at him, saying he only kept her around as an assistant. Through tears, Henry finally says what's been hurting her. He gave Rin the main model role, even though he once promised it would always be hers. She admits she wants him and Rin to be happy, but she can't stand being treated like a backup. In frustration, she rips the broken choker off and throws it on the ground, saying she'll go somewhere she's truly appreciated. Later, Yu sits alone in the garden, thinking about everything. Makishima joins him and says Rin has been worried. Yu asks why Makishima pushed for Rin to be the main model. Makishima says it was to make Yu finally notice her. He says if Henry was really just a friend, Yu wouldn't be so upset. If Yu truly had no feelings for her, he would have dated Rin by now. That night, he messages Henry, asking why she's really leaving. She responds, but her message feels cold like she's already decided. As he thinks about it more, he remembers she was the first person to believe in him. None of his success would have happened without her. He writes an apology willing to give in just this once if it'll make her stay. But when she doesn't reply, he realizes the truth. Henry will be fine without him. It's him who will struggle. Still, he decides to keep moving forward, even if he has to do it alone. On the other side of the phone, Henry is thrilled. The whole Tokyo story was a lie to make Yu realize how much he needs her. But when she remembers the broken choker, her smile fades for a moment. She punches her stuffed toy, trying to push the feeling away. She tells herself Yu can make her a better accessory, and maybe even beg for forgiveness. She even jokes to herself that she'll make him practice kissing with her. She waits for him to call or text the next day. But Yu doesn't say a word. He avoids her completely, acting like nothing happened. She tells herself he's just taking time to think, but when evening comes and still no message, she starts to worry. She checks social media and sees a photo of Rin smiling next to someone. She instantly knows it's Yu. Days pass. The product launch is a success, and Rin looks amazing as the main model. Henry remembers how Yu once said she was too clingy. She tries to shake off her jealousy but feels like she's being replaced. At home, her older brother, Hibari, notices she looks down. She finally tells him everything. He's shocked and angry, reminding her of the time she begged him to help promote Yu's work. He says he agreed because he believed in Yu's passion and made her promise to always support his dream. Now, he accuses her of abandoning that promise because things didn't go her way. Crying, Henry finally confesses that she's in love with Yu and doesn't know how to handle it. Hibari softens but tells her firmly that she has to decide, does she love Yu enough to fight for him the right way, or is she just trying to win? Hibari explains that in his job, he has to make hard choices for the greater good. People don't always like him for it, but he does it because it matters. He hopes Henry can also find a reason bigger than herself to work toward. The next day, Henry is still confused, but she messages Yu asking to meet. He replies right away and says he wants to talk too. They meet in the science lab. Nervous, Henry asks him to talk first. Yu hands her an envelope by mistake. It's his school withdrawal letter. He tells her he's planning to follow her to Tokyo. He says he finally realized she's the most important person to him. He's willing to leave everything behind just to stay with her. But then he hesitates, wondering if he'll be enough without his art. Himri wants to tell him he is, but she can't speak. She remembers all their everyday memories, stately videos, shared meals, trips. That's what made her fall in love. Without thinking, she grabs the letter, tears it up, and says she's not going to Tokyo anymore. Yu tries to convince her to follow her dreams. He steps close and grabs her shoulders, but she spills her drink in surprise. Embarrassed, she pushes him away, saying her first kiss won't happen while she's covered in juice. Then she smiles and says they should just go back to how things were. She's fine with Rin modeling now, but still wants to be Yu's main model. She asks what he actually meant to give her. Yu gives her another envelope with a fixed choker and a new charm, a yellow ring with a tiny flower and a seed inside. It's a friendship ring for his best friend, the most important person in his life. She turns around and jumps on his back, asking him to put it on her. When she sees the seed, she asks about it. Yu says it's just a seed. Henry finds it cute and reminds him of their promise to marry if they're both still single at 30. Later, she goes to the bathroom, a little sad they're still just friends, but glad she can stay by his side. Her friends rush in with a photo of Yu, their faces full of curiosity. Back in the science lab, Yu quietly texts a friend thanking him for getting the rare flower and seed. What Henry doesn't know is that the seed is from a purple tulip, a hidden confession of love that Yu still doesn't have the courage to say out loud. Single at 30. Later, she goes to the bathroom, a little sad they're still just friends, but glad she can stay by his side. Her friends rush in with a photo of Yu, their faces full of curiosity. Back in the science lab, Yu quietly texts a friend thanking him for getting the rare flower and seed. What Henry doesn't know is that the seed is from a purple tulip, a hidden confession of love that Yu still doesn't have the courage to say out loud. When Yu was younger, he was always drawn to beautiful things, especially flowers. He enjoyed the delicate process of preserving them, and it became his favorite way to relax. Even during class, he would secretly read books about flowers, hiding them behind his textbooks. This quiet hobby stayed with him through middle school. He kept to himself, usually sitting in quiet corners, reading about plants. Just when you thought he had mastered the art of staying invisible, Henry entered his life. He remembered clearly the day she first approached him and asked him to eat lunch together. Even though he tried to refuse, she handed him a drink and pulled him along, not caring about his hesitation. Some of her friends saw them and looked disappointed. They had probably expected her to sit with them instead. Henry only laughed it off, teasing them lightly, while Yu stood awkwardly nearby, unsure how to react to the attention. Before he could sneak away, Henry grabbed his arm and dragged him to the science lab for lunch like it had always been their routine. As they sat and ate, Henry suddenly asked why he had been avoiding her lately. Caught off guard, Yu choked on his food. He hadn't meant to ignore her. But after classmates told him to stop spending time with her, for her own social image, he decided to keep his distance, thinking it would protect her. Henry then showed him messages on her phone. One of the boys who told her to stay away from Yu had actually confessed he liked her, even though he already had a girlfriend. He offered to break up just to be with her. The girlfriend, angry and upset, accused Henry of stealing her boyfriend. Henry explained that the popular crowd only looked fun from the outside but was full of drama and fake friendships. She said she was tired of it and would rather quietly watch Yu work on his flower crafts. Then she reached for his hand and made him promise two things: that they would stay best friends forever, and that Yu would never fall in love with her, so their friendship wouldn't be ruined. Yu, blushing, agreed. But right after he made the promise, Henry grinned and played an audio recording of it, teasing him. Embarrassed, Yu chased her around the lab until they were both out of breath. Later, Henry joked that they should pretend to be a couple so boys would stop bothering her. Yu refused right away. He didn't want more school gossip. In the present day, Yu was hopelessly in love with Henry. He still thought about the moment he gave her the ring and missed his chance to tell her how he felt. When he saw her waving at him with a bright smile outside the building, he tried to act cool, but his awkwardness made Henry frown in disgust. She teased him, saying he looked like he had a stomachache. Their usual back-and-forth banter started up again as they walked to class. While walking, Yu noticed she wasn't wearing the ring on her finger anymore. Before he could ask, she tilted her head and tapped the choker loop through her belt. It was the ring, worn as a pendant. Yu blinked, surprised at how natural she made it look. He gently offered to make a new one since the choker looked worn out, but Henry quickly refused. The belt was important to her. Yu leaned in for a closer look but pulled back just as quickly, realizing he was staring too long. Trying to break the awkward mood, Henry joked that if you liked her that much, maybe you should just date. Yu laughed and replied with a fake confession, saying he liked her, then added he was kidding. Henry didn't smile. She stared at him and slowly sipped her drink, then said his joke was too obviously fake. Before Yu could answer, she said she remembered something and walked away. In the girls' bathroom, Henry leaned over the sink, splashing water on her face to calm down. For a moment, she'd have believed him and almost confessed everything, her feelings and the message from Rin. Meanwhile, Yu was on his way to class when a student called him to the faculty office. At lunch, Rin found out Yu had turned in a nearly blank midterm paper. He had fallen asleep during the exam after staying up all night working on Rin's accessory. The school gave him another chance to retake the test on Sunday. Wanting to help, Henry brought him her favorite drink and offered to help him study. She also mentioned that people now knew Yu was the creator of the preserved flower accessories. But Yu didn't seem bothered. His calm reaction made her uneasy. She warned him that girls might swarm him now, asking to model like Rin did. And knowing Yu, he'd probably say yes again. Seeing how stressed he looked, Yu placed a hand on her shoulder and said she'd always be his #1 model. His honest words and their closeness made Henry's heart race. Embarrassed, she smacked him. Yu scolded her for hitting him, and Henry snapped back that it was his fault for being so cheesy. Their argument was cut short when Yu noticed someone near the hallway. It was Rin, watching them silently. Normally, she would wave or smile, but today she looked serious. Trying to ease the tension, Yu greeted her and asked how long she'd been there. Rin replied coldly that she had heard everything since Henry mentioned other girls. She walked away before either could say anything. Back in class, both Yu and Henry were too distracted to focus. Henry kept thinking about everything but couldn't say anything aloud. She quietly promised herself that she would stay by Yu's side, even if it meant just being friends. Later, she had a thought maybe Makishima was the one who leaked Yu's identity. She met Makishima on the rooftop and asked him directly. He didn't deny it. He admitted he revealed the truth to give Rin a better chance with Yu. Henry was furious. She said even if Rin cut her off, Yu would still be her best friend. But Makishima didn't believe her. He said her feelings were too obvious and that she had missed her chance when Yu was ready to leave everything behind to go to Tokyo with her. Now he said Rin would win because she took action. He left without revealing what he really planned. After school, Yu and Henry took the bus to Hibari's house to study for the exam. Yu hadn't visited in a year, remembering how over-the-top the welcome had been the first time. As they arrived, she said they were alone, but Yu flicked her forehead. He knew Hibari wouldn't just leave. Henry explained that Hibari had sent the study materials ahead and wasn't home. Yu looked hopeful until the door opened and streamers flew in his face. Henry burst into laughter, clearly proud of her prank. Once things calmed down, they went to the living room where a huge stack of books was waiting. Hibari was in full tutor mode, glasses on, with a sharp gleam in his eyes that made Yu nervous. When you asked why Hibari wasn't at work, Hibari replied that his team could manage without him. His only goal that day was to help Yu pass. He wanted to support Yu's dream of making flower accessories and promised to teach him everything he needed so he could return to his passion without worry. Yu flinched at Hibari's intensity and looked to Henry for help. But she was already shutting the door with a playful smile, wishing him good luck. Hours passed. By night, the study session ended. Henry walked with Yu to the bath and thanked him for helping her brother, saying Hibari had been stressed with work. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she laughed, and Yu found himself watching her closely. In her light blue yukata, she looked elegant, and he wondered what kind of accessory would suit her best. Before he could daydream more, Henry caught his gaze and teased him. At the bath, Yu was surprised at how fancy it was. As Henry left to give him privacy, he undressed and tried to stay calm. But then her voice called out from behind the door. She was coming back in. Panicked, Yu tried to cover himself. She joked about washing his back to make up for earlier. He said that was inappropriate, but Henry claimed it wasn't weird since they were best friends. Then she smiled and accused him of liking her. Yu, feeling bold, told her to go ahead. She turned red but agreed and said she needed a moment to get ready. Yu sat down, unsure if she was serious. Moments later, someone entered. He shut his eyes, then screamed when he realized it was Hibari washing his back. Henry's laughter echoed from the hallway. Yu sighed in defeat. Hibari apologized but asked if this kind of teasing was normal. Yu tried to explain their friendship, but Hibari waved it off. Instead, he said he was glad they made up. Then he muttered that he was worried he wouldn't be able to apologize properly. Hibari was confused. He thought Himari was the one who apologized, not Yu. Sensing something was wrong, Hibari stood and asked for the full story. As Yu explained, Hibari's face grew serious. Meanwhile, Henry lay on her bed, still laughing until a knock interrupted her. Thinking it was Yu, she called out happily. But her smile faded when Hibari walked in with a serious look and asked for a talk. The next morning, Hibari drove them to school, giving Yu study tips along the way. Yu noticed Henry quietly crying in the back seat, but Hibari kept talking like nothing was wrong. When they arrived, Henry wiped her tears and said she was glad he was gone. Then Rin appeared and greeted only Yu coldly. He explained that he had stayed over for tutoring because of his bad grades. Hearing this, something changed in Rin's expression. Her eyes lit with determination. Without any hesitation, she announced that she would be joining their study sessions too. That marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.